pretty warm day. I'd say it's probably in the mid 80s, and there's a little breeze to my back, which is why I'm here versus where I usually sit on the pond. The road's dried out quite a bit, so I can get back down here with a pickup truck, and I think the road's actually going to come out pretty good. I think all that gnashing of teeth is going to end up with a better road because now it's a couple of feet higher than it was. Probably more resilient to storms and the heavy rains than it was before. As far as fishing's concerned, I haven't done much in the last couple of weeks because hay and storm and all that stuff. And I had tried to do this video a couple of times, what I want to do now. And yeah, I mean, it may not be the most popular videos because it's an opinion video versus, you know, one about facts and numbers and figures and stuff like that. But I kind of want to go back and look at some of this stuff that we've used over the last couple of years. A lot of that stuff is gone, you know. If I didn't like it, or it wasn't really special to me, it got either given away or sold or whatever, but it didn't stay in the channel. Let me see, it started out with a comparison of a Penn Fierce, and that was the first generation of Fierce. Now there's a Penn Fierce 2, which is a little bit better. And this reel, liked them both. And the Penn reels now are at my middle son's. He's got those. Went into different rods and reels, and I discovered these Halo brand rods and Lew's brand reels, which is something I'd never used before. Got a Shimano rod, a Kimura, pretty expensive rod, a bunch of stuff. This was that original rod from the Penn Fierce, and since it wasn't a two-piece, it didn't make the airplane trip. So otherwise, my son would have this one as well. This is the Lew's SG300 Speed Spin, and that is a Lew's TLP 3000. Came in this box right here. That's what it says about itself. Basically what I was looking for with this particular reel was this kind of a feel, a little stronger, you know, a little more durable design. And I think that's exactly what I got, because that TLP 3000 really has the same kind of a feel, the same kind of a speed that this one has, but it has a more solid feel and it's smoother. I also got a Penn Spin Fisher. This is a 3500. You might note that the 3500 and the 4500 have exactly the same body and gears, just a different spool. I went for the smaller one. Came with a rod, so this is new to the channel. Claims to be a graphite rod, and you know, it's pretty typical. Got steel bands on plastic for the reel seat, you know, threads up in there. That's plastic down in there. Not my favorite build combination, but it works. So let's set this up here. This rod and reel right here is my venturing into the smaller, not quite ultralight, but certainly light. And the original reason for this rod was I was looking for a takedown rod for my motorcycle adventures, of which I've done quite a few. And this was like $19, the Shakespeare Micro Series. Claims to be graphite. That's what it says about itself. And this reel is another new to the channel reel, which I'm very, very impressed with. And I suspect I would like the whole series. I've always been a bit of a Daiwa fan since I was a kid. And this is the BG 1500, and it's what they call hard body or aluminum body, 7 ball bearings. You know, it's a $80 to $100 reel, I guess, if that matters. And it has the same kind of feel as the Lew's. So if you like the Lew's, you're going to like the Daiwa, because they have the same kind of characteristics. And kind of that's where I'm going with this video. These are trends. Remember this one here? You probably don't. This was my buy for a lark Chinese reel. And that's the Berkeley cherrywood graphite rod from a few years back. Guess what? It's still in use. So this combination is an absolute win. A lot of similarities between those two rods, by the way. And that reel, while the bearings are a little floppy and loose, it works really well. It really does. No tangles, no failures. It's just kind of sloppy. You know, a little lower quality bearing is my guess, but the basic design's rugged. Definitely a rugged reel. Got a lot of time on that reel. And hopefully this Daiwa enhances the fishing experience in that smaller size rod and reel combination. That's its goal. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it'll go the way of the Penn Fierces. And hopefully this here, Penn Spinfisher, there's a lot online about the specifications, but it's also a saltwater oriented aluminum bodied reel. And the mission for this rod and reel is North Carolina and Virginia. So it really doesn't have a place on the pond up here, although I'm using it just to get a sense of how it works so I can talk about it with authority. And we'll talk about this one. Why doesn't this one have a reel? And here's that Halo Lose combination that I ran into last year, and this is still my favorite rod and reel combination that I have. Of all the stuff here on the back of the truck and all the stuff that's no longer with us, I still gravitate to this combination right here. And that's kind of what I'm looking for, is why. Why is it that this rod and reel, even though it may not be the most expensive, what is it about that combination that works for me? And that's what I want to talk about, because I'm beginning to see some trends. This guy here, never saw this rod before, but this was a company in town used to sell fishing gear, and they used to make line, and they had their own company store, and they would offer these rods for sale. And I had bought one a while back for ultralight fishing, and in one of those fits of not quite sure why I did it, I bought this contender reel for like 25 bucks Walmart. It's a Shakespeare. I actually caught a hell of a nice trout on the reel, but that reel was on the Shakespeare Micro Series rod that the Daiwa sits on now. But actually I caught the fish with that combination. This reel, this rod, a couple of very nice trout up in the Truxton area on the Tiafneoga River. I might fold some of that video in there because it was a nice fishing trip. Nice little trout. Nice little trout. Let me see if I can land them. Yep, got him. Now let me see if I can get the hook out of him. That's a nice fish. Got him underneath that tree over there. Boy, the wind's picking up. We're supposed to get some rain. I'm hoping to get some fishing in. Now, I had done a video on the Shakespeare excursion, and I liked it. You know, it was all right. Getting back into those trends, but it did not survive. Tip broke off, and I think what happened was it didn't handle riding the back of the truck or riding on the motorcycle one, and maybe got a nick in the graphite and that propagated into a crack. But the second part of the story for the excursion didn't last a month. Where is it? This rod right here is the replacement. Got this at Dick's. Field and Stream, Tech Spec Black, and supposed to be graphite. It's a takedown rod. I like it. I really do like this rod. I left the tag on, so you know there's the product code. 6.5 foot spinning rod, medium fast, 2-piece. See, I wanted the 2-piece for the motorcycle. Okay, and again, I was looking for that Lose reel feel with this Lose TLP 3000. And what I was trying to get to with this combination, starting with the Excursion that broke and now this rod, is a rod and reel that has a similar feel to this one piece halo, but be a two-piece rod where I can take it on the motorcycle. Now that's a tall order, and no, it isn't quite, you know, as nice as my halo in the way, you know, it feels to me. And again, that's a subjective thing, but I like it. I like it enough that I would recommend these, and I might get another one. I really do like that rod. I don't know if Field and Stream is a brand in of itself, or is it a store brand for Dick's. I'm not sure. So anyway, that's the cast of characters we have. Might as well put the broken one away. I don't know if you can see it down in there. I don't know if the camera, let's see if you can see the head move. Big old snapper. See him go for it. Jeez. Oh, by the way, I found a use for my poor broken Excursion. Pester snappers. Well, he was undeterred. He wants more. Go back through and fill in some blanks. One is the BG 1500 Daiwa reel. Here's the box. Here's what it says about itself. The things that are significant: 6 ball bearings, 1 roller bearing underneath the spool. It brags about its drag, and that's always a good thing when a reel manufacturer brags about the drag. It's pretty light at 8.5 ounces, and it's not as fast as I'd like. It's not as fast as a Lose with the 5.6 to 1 ratio, but it's fast enough. Okay, and then it has a lot of the other stuff that they like to talk about: aluminum body and body cover, their own gears. You know, it can handle braid, which is significant to some. They don't have a lot of literature that comes with it. That's about what comes, you know. But I like that reel, I really do. So that's a win. I think the Daiwa, that whole series, that BG series with the aluminum body, I think it's a win. And by the way, as trends go, the TLP is also an aluminum body. It's not a composite body. But what I like about the Lose is that 6.2 to 1. By the way, you're going to see that on Penn gears. And look at that weight, 8.3 ounces. It's really not a lot heavier than the Daiwa, which is a 1500 series. And this is a larger 3000 series, you know, reel, a little bit bigger reel. But these are fairly lightweight for what they are, you know, the Lose, which is another reason I like it. So let's start talking about trends. First, you notice this thing's not in use. Beautiful reel, love it for a lot of reasons, but there's one thing about this reel that I don't like, just one. And for that reason, it sits as my backup reel, getting dinged up in the truck versus out there catching fish. Although it did get a full year, and it stayed smooth, beautiful reel. And the thing I don't like is that angle right there. What happens is when I put that on the rod, that right there hits my finger, and after an hour or two begins to just irritate the crap out of it. And so for that reason, this reel just doesn't get a lot of use anymore, so it may go down the road. But this Shimano Symmetry is a beautiful reel, and you know, it's really smooth and casts really well, does all the things the reel is supposed to do. But it's an ergonomics thing. It doesn't work for me. Notice how straight that is, so it does not irritate my finger. I never noticed that on my hand. Casts beautifully, and I am beginning to think there's some trends that are developing there on the rods and reels that I've tested that cast well and ones that don't. If you look right down the axis of that reel, if you were to drop a vector through the center line of that reel, I know that sounds like nerd talk, it is. It would be on the lower side of the first guide, not the middle, not the upper, not below or above, but in the lower portion of that circle, maybe 2/3 of the way across. And notice how those guides kind of go roughly straight before they make the corner to the tip. And this rod casts better than anything I have. And the other thing about this rod is it was not very expensive. But the guide, while not micro guides, there's enough of them, and they do a fairly good job of controlling the line, obviously, because of the way it casts. But here's the thing. As compared to, say, this rod here, got a lot more guides. It's got the little micro guides up to the end. But boy, is it a pain in the neck for me to thread with, unless I have my glasses on. And when it gets dark, it's really hard. So while this rod here might be a better rod and perform as well, if not better, as my Halo, in the day-to-day use, I still prefer the Halo. And granted, that might be a better rod, but notice it doesn't have a reel on it. Another thing about this rod that bothers me a little bit, even though it's a beautiful rod, is how short that grip is. This is perfect. Well, of course that is too for me. And again, it's just me. And while I have the exposed rod, I need a little bit of diameter for my hand. Again, it's an ergonomic thing. And one of the things I like about this new rod is that there is some exposed graphite, and believe it or not, it does make a little difference when you're feeling things. And I'm pretty sensitive to that. I know some people aren't, but I am. So right now, even though this is my favorite combination, I have not taken this one apart yet, and it's beginning to match. Boy, they're jumping. Right down there, they were jumping. And this one's beginning to get the same kind of run time as my Halo does. So I'm liking this. Pin spin fisher. As compared to my Halo for fishing around here, up and down the Tiafneoga and in my farm pond and stuff like that, I'll pick that one over this particular rod and reel combination every time. Not even close. Why? This is like a much more expensive combination. A lot of good things about it. Aluminum body. It has the same 6.2-to-1 ratio as the Lew's. So why would I not pick this combination over a much less expensive, lower in the totem pole fishing combination? And the answer is weight. There's a trend. This metal reel is actually lighter than this one, which is why this rod and reel combination is moving up in the stack, while some of the others, like this one, have moved down. This one's moved down. We'll talk about it in a minute. It's just heavy, you know, as compared to the Lew's and Halo combination, and the Lew's and this Field and Stream combination. This thing here feels like a tree, you know, feels like a baseball bat. Big, heavy reel and rod combination. Really durable, really rugged. Lots of guides. It's easy for me to string, so that's all good. But you know, it's a heavy combination. So all things being equal, I gravitate to the lighter ones, which is a trend. See, we're talking about trends. So the first trend was the aluminum bodied reels. I'm beginning to gravitate towards them. Even though I like this reel a lot, I think I like this one a little more. Right now, if I was to say the optimum combination would be this reel on that particular rod, but this SG300 is good enough that I'm not going to make that change. And since this is going to get more run time because of the takedown capability in the motorcycle, I'm putting my favorite reel on this. Does that make any sense? But there's a trend. I like these. The lightweight ones, not the big chunky ones, but the lighter weight aluminum body reels I'm beginning to like. They have a different feel to them. I like it. Some people don't. Now, the next thing that I've noticed is really subtle, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there who are going to argue this point. But when I line these rods up, oh, by the way, let me put this one up here too, because I like it. placement of that first ring. It's easily 4 inches further down the rod than any of the other ones, even the ones of the same length. And I wonder if that configuration is one of the reasons why that rod and reel just simply performs better than anything else I have on that deck right there in terms of casting. I did notice when I put this reel on the Halo, the TLP on the Halo, I did it for a little bit. It, like the SG, it casts just wonderfully. Interestingly enough, even though the layout of these two rods and the action, the blanks, are roughly the same, the Halo will outcast this Vendetta every time. Same reel. But look at the way the rings are. I don't know what it is about these guys. I'm trying to quantify it. That's why I'm showing you these differences. But I wonder if it's the way, first of all, the height of the first ring and the location of the first ring relative to the reel. I wonder if that has a lot to do with it. And then if you look down the rod, how the Halo gets down to the smaller line guides a little faster than this Vendetta. Great rod, don't get me wrong. I ran this for a while. It's a great rod. Of course, this performs beautifully as well. And again, the reason why it's not on top really has nothing to do with its action or the way it casts, but simply because the fact it doesn't have the grip like these other two that I like. Actually, 3 that I like. I like all 3 of these rods. And the fact that it's a pain for me to thread when it gets dark, and I do a lot of my fishing when I get home from work. So there's some trends, you know what I'm saying? As far as the action's concerned, I really can't show you that, but these 4 rods, the Field and Stream, the Shimano Kimura, Halo, and the Vendetta, they all have a similar feel to the blank, the rod blank, even though this is a 2-piece. It's pretty close, and I like them. So anyway, I'm rambling. And I did use this rod. There's a reason to have one of these little short rods. This, by the way, it works wonderfully in those really tight spaces. And I did a little video when I caught some fish on it where I had no room to cast, and I used this and it was great. I don't like those ring reel seats. You really have to tape them, and I'll eventually do that if I keep it. So that rod and reel combination really is on the block. Now I've got this little thing right here, little short rod. Probably can cast with this one. No chance of to get to where the fish are at. Yeah, check that out. I think I caught the smallest fish I've ever seen in my life. There's another one. I'm still discovering this combination. Do I like it or not? I love the reel. I'm not thrilled with the rod. I like the cherry wood better. And I had said in some of my other videos, another trend for me is how it works from the last, I don't know, foot or so of the rod. And I tend to like ones that have a little more stiffness in the tip. And there's a whole variety of reasons why. I've gone through that in my other videos. It's not very scientific, but what I've found through empirical data is the graphite rods that have a little more stiffness in the tip. And what I mean is, geez, it's hard to see. I don't have the language the pros have. I'm just a farmer. But you'll see a lot of the flex in this area right here, but this last foot or so remains a little stiff. And all these rods do that the same. And what I found is, as compared to say this one, which does not, and some of the other rods that went right down the road, is if I don't have that stiffness up here in the tip, it's hard for me both to set the hook, and on my hooks where I've gotten rid of the barbs, it's hard for me to keep it in the fish. And that's why I don't like these. I have a heck of a time keeping the hook in the fish with these. And I really don't know why. It's just the action of the rod. While it works for millions, I prefer something else. And that's what we're talking about. This is a subjective thing. There's no scientific and there's no expertise. This is just saying these are the things I've tried, and I'm beginning to find things I like and that work for me. And what I wanted to do in this video is just sort of summarize that. And right now what I've been able to do is break it down into a few things that are common denominators with all the rod reel combinations that I really like. And that is beginning to affect how I purchase. So I guess it does make an impact. First is the reel bodies. Second is the reel gear ratios, over, somewhere around the 6-to-1 ratio. Third is the I don't know what you call that mounts the reel to the rod. That stem there, it's got to be more vertical and less curvature so it doesn't bother my finger. Fourth is the handles that are partial or full. I don't mind the full handle, but I don't like these little guys right here. 5 is I'm not a fan of the micro guides for just the day-to-day stuff I do. They may be better, they may work better, I'm not going to dispute that, but without glasses it's a pain. And 6 is the action of these rods, a little stiffer at the tip. And 7 is something that's a little sketchy for me yet, but it seems like the layout of the rings on the halo, they've done something right, because empirical data has shown me that same reel across all 4 of these rods, the halo casts better. And the rod blanks have roughly the same kind of a feel, so I'm guessing it has to do with the way the guides are laid out. I think they've stumbled onto something there. One last trend, that's a lot of trends, is line. Oh my God, the fishing line makes such a difference on how a rod and reel combination casts. And I mean, I kind of knew it all along for a long time, but I've discovered that the actual difference is huge. I've standardized on this Berkeley Triline, or Trilene, the smooth casting. And the reason I standardize on that line is whether it's 4, 6, or 8, or 10, depending on, like I have 10-pound test on the Spin Fisher, but I've got 6-pound test on the 2 Lew's reels, and I've got 4-pound on the Daiwa in that little tiny Shakespeare. I kind of bypassed 8. The Shimano had 8-pound test, but the reason I did that is because this works good enough for me. It casts well, and it doesn't seem to get a lot of tangles. The low visibility stuff, the low vis stuff, and the extra strong or the extra tough and all that kind of crap, man, it made a huge difference in the way those rod and reels casted. So I went back to using this, and there is another brand. I'm going to wait for a later video. I'd gone up to Bass Pro, and one of the few pieces of advice I'd got from them that was worth a crap was I was asking for, line. And I'm not going to tell you which reel they put their line on, their suggestion, but it's definitely an improvement. So I'm going to explore the different lines at a later point in time. But let me tell you right now, this stuff here works good for casting. It's good enough for fishing, but it's not the best. But you can make a really nice rod and reel combination cast like crap with the wrong line. I think that's the message. But I already got too much in this video. Let me see if I can catch some fish and fold that in here. Which one am I going to use? First cast, I got a minnow. Look at that little aggressive bass. So he hit that thing as soon as it hit the water. Oh, got away. Looked to me like the same damn fish I caught last time. Now this reel right here, for whatever reason, I just get tangle after tangle after tangle. Just bird's nest after bird's nest after bird's nest on this deal. I switched back. First cast, little fish, but my pride was beginning to get to me a little bit. Bait fish. So that damn thing caught a bait fish. One of the smallest fry I've seen in a long time. Well, since yesterday.